Hi there, I'm Eitan, and welcome back to the Wix Wiz. If you're thinking of building your first website in 2024 or just trying out Wix for the first time in 2024, then you've come to the right place. First, I'll be talking about the changes that Wix has undergone in the past year, and then I'll be walking you through both the Wix Classic Editor and the new Wix Studio Editor, showing you how to set up your website and giving you some tips and tricks that you won't want to miss out on. So if you want to learn all of that and more, let's get started. What is Wix in 2024? So Wix has been on the website builder market for quite a while, among other big names you may have heard of, such as Squarespace and WordPress. And these website builders are used mainly by small and medium-sized businesses, as well as other DIYs such as hobbyists and freelancers, in order to build their website, mainly because they lack either the time or the skills to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Not only that, but these website builders also cut through a lot of red tape, such as setting up payments for your website, setting up authentication and membership management, setting up your domain and hosting your website, as well as providing other business solutions such as CRM, marketing, and email. So what is new as we enter 2024? Well, except for a major design change to their logo, in 2023, Wix also introduced the new Wix Studio, an editor which is supposed to provide more responsive design than the Wix editor, but a slightly easier user experience than Editor X. Not only that, but they also released Wix Headless, which allows you to use Wix business solutions on any platform or framework that you want, as well as some promises of some new AI technology for designing websites, which we still have yet to see. Which leaves us with the four, soon to be three Wix editors as Editor X is phased out in favor of Wix Studio. We have the classic Wix editor, which is still the favorite among absolute beginners, but only provides adaptive design. We have the Wix ADI, which is an even more streamlined setup version of Wix Editor. And of course, we have the new Wix Studio, which provides advanced responsive design, but may be a little harder to use for people without design background, as well as a few little kinks that are still being worked out, in my opinion, for it to be a full-fledged editor that can actually compete with the classic Wix editor. And in our video today, we're going to be talking mostly about the Wix editor, and in the end, I'll be adding a few notes about some differences in Wix Studio that you should note as well. So as I said, we are going to be starting with the Wix Classic editor or the Wix editor. And the way to get started with that is to head over to wix.com. Okay, so right over here. And then you should see a page that looks something like this, and we're going to go ahead and click Get Started. And once you click Get Started, you will be prompted to sign up. I'm assuming here that you've never used Wix before. This is your first time on the platform, and so I'm going to go through the same process that you should be going through in terms of signing up. So you can either sign up with like Google or Facebook. I'm just going to sign up with email. So after you complete the sign up process, you will see this page over here, at least in the beginning of 2024. I don't know if it'll last the whole year. But this is the entrance point to a guide that Wix will take you through in order to get your website set up. You always have the option at any point to just click these skip buttons on the bottom here on the bottom right. I know I'm kind of blocking it a little bit with my video, and skip straight to the part where you can kind of either pick a template or pick a blank canvas, and I'll show you that as well if you don't want to go through kind of Wix's guided setup. And here we have actually quite a critical question. Who are you creating a website for? And here basically Wix will take you in one of two directions based on the answer that you pick. So if you select for a client as a freelancer or an agency, then you will be taken to the option to enter Wix Studio. So if you're thinking of creating your website on Wix Studio, then you can go over here and just click Go to Wix Studio, and you will be setting up your website through Wix Studio. Wix Studio includes both an editor and a dashboard for managing clients and stuff like that. So even if you go into Wix Studio, you will still have the option to set up websites through the Wix editor as well. And for now, I think also Editor X. But if you decide to continue with Wix, then you'll kind of be outside of the Wix Studio system. I'm not sure what happens if you sign up for Wix Studio after entering the Wix editor. I don't know. it's like a whole, it's a little convoluted at this point. I hope it becomes a little more clear once Wix Studio becomes more mainstream. But for you now to know, you just have to know that if you want to go to Wix Studio, then you're going to have to click this option, client for a client as a freelancer or as an agency, and that's because Wix Studio is currently being marketed to freelancers and agencies because of the kind of more advanced design know-how that you need in order to really be able to be successful with that editor. As I said, we're going to be focusing in the beginning on the Wix editor. So I'm just going to click here for myself, my business, or for a friend. And I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And here we're taken into a new interface where we can bring our ideas to life with AI. This isn't yet the full AI that Wix has promised, so don't be misled. This is kind of just a wrapper for the original setup process that Wix had, which I can show you still exists. So, for example, if you click here, setup without AI, you'll be taken to the standard setup process. And if you click start chat, it will take you into an chat format setup. So basically you can say, what do you want to call your site? So I can call it just Wix editor demo. And then it will keep on asking you questions in order to both see what kind of basic design you might want for your site, and in order to provide you with different apps that you might possibly want on your site. And that's very similar to what you would have seen if you would have just went here and clicked setup without AI. Okay, so it takes you also to a very similar process, just without the chat format. So I'm not going to run through this guide because this guide is a little bit of a maze, and really based on any change that you make in any one of the steps, it can take you in completely different directions. So I'm not even sure that the process that you would go through would look anything like what I would show you. But basically you have the choice of following the guide and providing the answers as best as you can based on the website that you want to build, or you can go ahead and just skip through, and that's what I'm going to do here. And eventually you should reach a similar point where you have a dashboard for your website and you are ready to start editing your site. So before we start editing the website itself, I actually want to give a brief overview of the dashboard because it is a very important part of your Wix experience. So the dashboard is not visible to anybody except for you and other collaborators that you add to your website. So this isn't something that people who are visiting your website is going to see, but it allows you to manage various aspects of your website and your business. So if you take a look here on the left-hand side, you will see a menu, and there's really a lot going on in this menu, and that's why I also like to use this search bar. So if you're ever thinking of something that you're kind of looking for within the dashboard, I tend to start with the search bar unless I really know exactly where it is. And we have a few things here in the dashboard, and this can also change. So as I make changes to my website and add different things, I might also see this panel here on the side change and different sections being added based on what I add to my website. But basically here we have information about our website, and we have some settings. Okay, so this is a very important part where we can change various things about our business and our website. So you'll definitely want to take a peek over there. Also important is our whole CRM. So in addition to just having a website, we also have a way to manage our contacts and members, and that's also all done here through the dashboard. So if you go here to contacts, then you can see contacts, and you'll be able to see site members too if you allow that ability on your website. We also have various marketing and SEO tools, as well as the option to send out emails, set up automations, handle payments, etc. Okay, so all of that is going to be happening here in the dashboard. I'm not going to go through every single thing because there is really a lot that can be done here in this dashboard. But I do recommend being somewhat familiar with this, and worst case, as I said, just go ahead and use the search right up here. Okay, so that's a bit about the dashboard. And once you're familiar with that and you've gone through the basics, Wix will also provide kind of like a setup process that you can go through. You don't have to connect a custom domain in order to edit and launch your site. You can have a fully published and online website without connecting a domain, so don't feel pressure to do that or upgrade your site before you're fully comfortable with it and happy with it. So let's go ahead and click Design Site, and that will take us essentially to the editor where all the editing magic happens. So I'm going to go ahead and click right over here, and you'll see that you have the option to either let Wix create a site for you. So you would provide some information, and then Wix, based on that, would magically decide what your website should look like. This used to create websites in the ADI. From what I see at the moment, it could be that they are sunsetting the ADI. I don't know for sure. There hasn't been an official release about this yet, so I don't want to declare that the ADI is no longer. There are definitely people who have their site on the ADI, but based on what I'm seeing here, it seems like you can't create new websites on the ADI, which again was like a simplified version of the editor. So you can either let Wix create the site for you, or you can go ahead and select a template. If you want to create a website completely from scratch, then you have the option to go over here to blank templates and start from scratch. So this will give you like a completely white editor, no elements, blank canvas. You can start from scratch. That's usually how I would start to build a website. But if this is your first website, you have zero experience, then you can definitely take a look at the templates. They have some pretty nice templates here, and you can adjust anything from text to color to forms, etc., to fit your business and make it your own. I'm going to create a blank template just because I think it'll be the best in terms of demonstrating to you the various aspects of your Wix website. But again, no pressure. You can go ahead and choose whatever you think is the best fit for you. So I'm going to go ahead here and click Start from Scratch and click Edit, and that will take me straight into the editor where we can get started. Okay, so welcome to the Wix editor, and before we start adding elements and designing our page, I first want to give you a quick overview of the page layout. So first of all, you can know which page you're on. Right up here on the upper left over here, you can see that it says Home. And if you click this drop down, then it will allow you to navigate between the pages. At the moment, we only have that home page. You can also navigate between the pages of your site from right over here. We have Pages and Menu. Okay, and this is where we can see all the pages and navigate between them. In terms of the individual page, so you can see here that my page is divided into three primary sections. We have the header, this middle section, which I'm going to call the body, and here on the bottom we have a footer. And the difference between the header and footer and body is that the header and footer are going to be the same on all the pages of your site. So whatever design you put right over here and in the footer, those are going to be the same on all the pages of your site. You're probably quite familiar with this concept if you visited a website before. And this part here in the middle is going to be different on every single page of your site. So here you're designing for this specific page, but if I was to change the page, then the design would also change here in the middle. We can tell which section we're in because when I click the header or the footer, you can see that it's outlined with this orange outline. That is the Wix indication that we are currently designing an element that appears the same on all the pages, whereas here this purple or bluish is just an indication that this is a regular section that's only on this page. In terms of managing the design of our page, so we have these sections here, which is like the top of the hierarchy of elements of a Wix page, and it's basically just for organizing your page horizontally. So here I have one section, and then I have the option to add additional sections under it, either pre-designed, or I can just select blank section, and it will add in additional sections under the first one that I had. So now you see I have two sections here, and you can adjust the size of the sections and any other elements in Wix, usually by just clicking either on the outside of the element. Here for the section, we have this kind of adjustment bar over here, and if I drag this up or down, so I'm just focusing right on this, and if I drag it up or down, that will adjust the height of the section. I currently am having some issues with my mouse. I just bought a new one. It should be arriving Tuesday. So that's why my dragging is not working so well, but in general, it works something like that. One important thing to note here inside of the section is that you'll see that this section has two dotted lines here on the side, and on each side, more like. And this is because the Wix editor, as opposed to Editor X and Wix Studio, is not a responsive editor, but an adaptive editor. And basically that means that anything that we put between these two dotted lines, which you can see appear also in the header and the footer, will essentially be visible from all screen sizes. Whereas if we put something outside of those lines, then it won't be visible on smaller screens. There is a way to organize your elements so that it's a little more adaptive, so that like it'll display nicely both on smaller screen sizes and larger screen sizes. I actually have a video completely about this topic, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly here. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out that other video. But in order to manage a section, what we can do is add something called a strip. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, and this is where we add elements. So right over here, this big plus sign that we see over here, that if I go ahead and click, then it will open up this menu where we can see all of the different elements. And as you can see, there are a lot of different elements. We will not be able to cover them all in this introductory video, but I will try and touch on some of the key ones that appear in most websites. So first of all, over here we have all the different categories of elements. So you can see here text, image, button, etc. The element that I wanted to show you first is this strip element. Okay, and in previous generations of the Wix editor, we didn't have sections, we only had strips. But now strips are something that we put inside of sections in order to organize the section. So I'm going to go ahead and add this strip to one of my sections. And to do that, you can either just kind of click on the element itself, or as it says here, you can drag and drop it. So I'm just going to drag it and put it right over here inside of the section. And you can see that it looks pretty much like the section in the fact that it's kind of this blank frame. But the main difference between this strip and the section is that this strip can be split into columns. So if I click, every time I click on an element, you can see that this menu comes up above it, which gives us different properties and submenus of the element that we can access. And this is different for every single element. But for here, we have the layout option on the strip, okay, right over here. And once I click layout, then it gives me this option to change the strip layout and add a column. So once I add a column in over here, you can see that it took my strip and it split it into two. And once I select one of these columns, you can see that the dotted lines have also changed. So now each one of these columns has its own set of dotted lines, and that means that anything that goes here in the middle or here in the middle will appear on all screen sizes, and this can be very handy if we don't want all of our design to be smoshed into the middle of the screen. Again, I'm not going to go more in depth now because I do have a video all about this topic, but it is important for me to introduce it to you basically so you know about it as you're getting started with your website. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this strip right over here. To get rid of an element, you can just go ahead and click delete on your, well, that deleted the column, but if I click delete again, then it completely removes the element. You also have the option, if I go back here, so these are the undo and redo buttons over here. So if I just click undo, it'll return my strip here to the canvas, and then I can just right click and you have this option here to delete. Okay, so that is how you would delete an element and add an element. And now I'm going to demonstrate some of the other basic elements that we would typically add to a Wix website. So one of the most critical parts of a website is going to be text. You got to have text on your website in order for people to understand what the heck is going on. And when it comes to Wix, so we have these text elements that we can add to our site. And you'll see that they're called different things. So we have heading 1 down till 6, and then we have different paragraphs over here. And these correlate to the presets that we set up for our site. So before you start adding text to your site, you're going to want to decide what kind of typography you want and what sizes you want for your font, how you want them to look. And then you can go over here, okay, to where you see this A with a kind of drop over here. And if you click over there, then it will allow you to set up different things related to your site theme. So whether it's a color theme, but also a text theme. And basically you can change each of these. So heading 1, heading 2, you can change both coloring and the font styles and stuff like that. And that will determine how all of those heading 1s or heading 2s look on your site. And I recommend doing this first thing because otherwise it can kind of screw up your design if you change it after adding the text elements already to your website. One other small tip regarding text is do try and limit your site to 1 or maybe 2 different fonts. You don't want 1,000 different fonts on your site, also because it's super ugly and looks very unprofessional, but also because it can slow your site down significantly. So try and keep your site to 1 or 2 fonts and set them up first here inside of the theme setup. So just like with our strip element, with the text, we can either just click on this text that we want to add to the page, or we can grab it and drag it to wherever we want it to be. After it is on the page, we can select it by clicking on it. And then if you click and drag, you can also change the placement of this element on the page. Another way to change the placement of the element on the page is to head over here to Tools on the upper right. You see we have this tool panel over here, and we can open up the toolbar. And here we have options for setting the position of an element in various ways. So if I select the element over here, I can both change its width and height and also change its position on the x-axis. Let me move this over a little bit so you can actually see. So I can change the position on the x-axis or on the y-axis. So if I go over here and I change this, let's say to 200, then you can see that the element moves over 200. And this is really good for precise designing that you might not manage to get to with the drag because the drag can sometimes be a little imprecise. So if you really want to go ahead and be super precise, then you can use this tool panel over here. And if you want to close it, then just right over here on the upper right, you got that little X. One note here specifically about text. So you can see here that the text that I added is a heading 1, and it's recommended to have one heading 1 on every page of your site. So you want to have at least one heading 1 and not more than one heading 1. And this is something that's important for something called SEO, which we'll talk about later on. But just remember that principle. And this will usually be the title of whatever the page is. So let's say this is my home page, and I want to edit that text. So I can just go ahead and either double click inside of this text box, and then I can edit, or I can click and select the element and then click over here and edit text, okay, inside of the menu. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit text, and then I can just edit this like a regular Word document, let's say, and write whatever text I want. So let's say I want this to be my home page, and I want to be writing in English. So let's say this is my home page. So that's just going to be home. Obviously, you'd probably call it something else, like the name of your business or some kind of snazzy title for your page. And there are also various other things that you can do with the text when you're editing the text. So you can also change the font if you want. I don't recommend doing that because you should probably just stick to the font that you set up with your theme. But in very, very rare cases that you want to change the font, so you can do that over here. You can change the font size. You can do all these different basic text editing actions, bold, italics, add some effects, etc. I'm not going to go into it. You can play around with it after, but kind of anything that you want to do with regard to your text, you'll do here within this text setting panel right over here. After you've added a title, you might want to add additional text, and for that you can add any of these other text types over here. Generally, it's recommended to keep a certain hierarchy in mind. So let's say heading 1 will be one for each page, and then heading 2 will be subtitles that are under the main title, and then heading 3 and heading 4, etc. And paragraph would just be for, various regular bulks of text on your page. And this has meaning beyond just the design. It's also significant for SEO because these elements essentially correspond to HTML elements, and each one of these is a different kind of HTML element, and it is significant which one you use. So it's not just something like random, oh, I like this design, so let me pick this one. But rather it should be the opposite, that you set up your design based on the functionality of these actual texts. Another important element you will most likely want to add to your site is images. And all of the media management on your Wix website happens through something called the Media Manager. And that includes both media that you upload yourself. So for example, here you can see upload images. And it also includes some stock footage that Wix provides for you inside of the Media Manager. And you can access that from the Add Elements panel. And you can also access that down over here. So you have access here to the Media Manager. And that will allow you to either upload some pictures or videos or documents, any kind of media, and either edit them or add them to your website. So I'm just going to go over here and add some stock footage. So I'm just going to click this image right over here, and it will be added to my site. Now what I can do is do some basic editing of the image. So I can change its size by using these kind of drag holders over here. I can change its placement. I also have the option here inside of the menu panel to do a bunch of things. So one of them is to crop. Okay, so I can go ahead and crop this image based on a shape, or just size it, or crop it myself however I want. I can switch out this image for another image. I can edit the image. So Wix has like a built-in image editing software. It's not super advanced, but it does give a lot of the basic things that you would want to do with some image editing. So you can kind of do some final touches on your images after you've added them to your site. Some other elements that you will likely want to add include video. So video is quite popular to add to a website, and you can do that by either using this player to display some kind of media that you've uploaded to your Wix website, and you can also link directly to, let's say, YouTube or some other video platforms that you saw over there, just by clicking, for example, here, change video, and then you have the option to put a link to the video and display that video on your website. This video player can also be edited, so you can just drag it wherever you want. You can adjust the size. Okay, so that's a pretty useful element as well. You will likely also want to add a form to your website. So let me go ahead and add an additional section here. I'll add a blank section. And in order to add a form, what you'll want to do is go ahead and click Add Elements. And right above Video and Music, you have the option here to add Contact and Forms. And this is where you could just select one of these pre-made designs. You can also edit the design after you add it. But basically, this is an out-of-the-box form, which will also connect to a kind of database or CMS, which will organize the submissions of the form, and also send you email notifications when the form is submitted, as well as give you the option to create your own automations of how you want to follow up on the fact that the form has been filled out. And these forms can be edited by either removing fields, so I can just go ahead and delete one of these fields if I don't want it. And I also have the option to add in new fields, but from the menu right over here, add new field. And once I click that, there are various different kinds of fields that I can add in, email, phone, address, etc. And you just need to find the one that you need. So let's say I want to collect addresses. So I can add it to the form. I can change the order of the fields here on the form. And I can also change the design. So either you can do like a generic change of the design by clicking design, and customize design. And then you can change the design for all the input fields together, or you can change the design individually for one of the input fields by clicking over here, whoops, and open it and changing the design by clicking Customize Design. Okay, so that is how to add a form to your website and design it. It's pretty simple, and that's the beauty of Wix and specifically the Wix editor, is that you can really get your website up and running quite quickly because it's drag and drop. What you see is what you get. It's super visual and rather intuitive, even though there's a lot that you can do. Okay, so once you have completed your design on desktop, so you've added in all the elements to your screen and you're happy with how it looks beautiful. And now you want to not forget to edit the mobile version of your site. So the way that the Wix editor works is that it is adaptive and there are two default screen sizes that it works for. It works for desktop and it works for mobile, and it displays essentially a different version of your site on desktop and mobile. This is different than how Wix Studio works, and I'm going to talk about that a little later on. But once you're done here with the desktop version, then you're going to want to switch over here to mobile. Okay, so you can see here that we have two buttons. One is for desktop, that's what we're on now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click mobile, and that will switch us over to the mobile view of our site. Okay, and let's go. Skip this. And so this is how my site looks on mobile, and you can see that Wix kind of did its best in terms of translating my desktop to mobile, because obviously we're not going to want the same exact design on desktop and mobile because it's not 1995 anymore. And on mobile, we want to have a different look that's appropriate for mobile. So our elements will be organized in a different way. And this actually looks pretty good. I mean, it could be fixed up a little bit, but it does follow the principle of adapting the design to the mobile website. Let's say I might want to make, my font a little bigger, so I can go ahead and just kind of click over here and make the font bigger. And the changes that I make over here are only going to affect the mobile website. Okay, so if I change the sizes here, everything that I do here is only going to affect the mobile site, including if I delete an element. So if I go ahead and let's say I delete this picture, so it's been hidden on mobile, as you can see over here. And if I want to add it back, then I can just go over here and click show, and that will add it back to my mobile site. But even if I do delete it, and then I go back to the desktop version of my site, you can see that the image is still here. Okay, so this is something that is only for mobile. Okay, so if I delete it on mobile, then it will not delete on desktop, but the opposite is not true. So if I delete something on desktop, it will be deleted from the mobile version. Unless there's one caveat for that, and that is mobile elements. So you'll see here that also inside of the mobile view, I have the option to add to mobile, and there are a limited amount of elements that I can add to the mobile. So let's say, for example, I decide to add this decorative shape here to my mobile version of my site. Let me move it. Let me put it over here. Awesome. So now this is only on the mobile version of my site. And if I go to desktop, you'll see that that does not exist. Okay, so that is the only way to add something that will be on mobile, but not on desktop. And as you saw, it's a little limited. So it's not relevant for all elements, just for some specific elements that Wix decided you can add only to mobile. But that's generally a very broad introduction to editing your mobile site. As a rule of thumb, I recommend first completing your design on desktop and then moving to mobile. So you don't want to be designing a little bit on desktop, then do a little bit on mobile, then change desktop, then mobile, because every time you make changes on the desktop version of your site, it can affect the design on the mobile site. So you want to be as close to done as possible on desktop before you start playing around with your mobile site. Okay, so now that we've completed the design of our first page, let's talk about adding additional pages to our website, as well as touching up our header to allow some navigation between the pages. So in order to add new pages to your site, you're going to go over here to the left. You see here Pages and Menu, and you're going to go ahead and click that, and it will open up what we saw before in terms of navigating between the different pages, but also allow you to add a new page to your site. And you can choose from these pre-made templates that Wix thinks fit some general website design principles, or you can go ahead and add a blank page, and it will add a new page to your site, and you can go ahead over here and rename the page to your site. So you can call this, let's say, About Me, and this will be the page of your site for About Me, and you can start designing this site, this page, sorry, and you'd go ahead and add in the title. So you add the heading 1 and change this to About Me, and go ahead and add your picture and add your text and whatever you want. And this is a new page on your site, and you'll be able to navigate to it. In order to allow navigation between the pages of your site, you're going to want to add a menu element to your site. And if you chose one of the Wix templates, then you have a lot of this stuff probably on the site out of the box, because almost every website will have some form of navigation. So if we go over here to add elements, then you can see here that we have menu and anchor. And we have a bunch of different menu options over here. I'm just going to choose this very basic one up here and attach it to the header. And you can see here that I'm seeing it on this new page that I created, About Me. And if I navigate back to my home page, then you can see that I see the same exact menu here. And that's because it's on the header, and the header is the same throughout all the pages of my site. Here you have different options for playing around with the menu, both in terms of the layout and kind of what you're displaying on the menu and what you're not displaying on the menu. For example, if I don't want to show this About Me page on the menu, then I can go over here and click these three dots, and then go down here all the way down to Hide. Okay, and if I click Hide, then it will not show it on the menu. It's still part of my website, so it's still online after I publish my site, and people can reach that page on the internet, but it's just not going to be showing in the menu. So it's important to note that slight difference there. But once you have a page here, it's published. There's no way to only publish part of your website. And in terms of the mobile, so once I add a menu element to my desktop version, you can see here that we also have this hamburger added to my mobile version. And that's because typically on mobile, you won't display a full menu because it's just a little cluttered and it's a little hard for people to navigate, but rather you'll have a menu that can be opened up at the click of a button. And that's what this special button does. And you can go and edit the menu by clicking Edit Menu, and this is what your menu will look like on mobile. And you can go ahead and change the design or manage the menu, and you can even add some additional elements here to this menu box. So for example, if I wanted to add another button here to do something, then I can go ahead and add a button, and this button would show inside of my mobile menu. Okay, so we've been working on our site for quite a while and we're quite happy with it. And now I want to talk about saving and publishing your website. So as you're working within the Wix editor, you're going to want to save from time to time. Wix will also auto-save at certain intervals. I'm not sure exactly what that interval is, but whenever you do something significant on your site and you don't want to lose track of that work, you can always go up here and click this Save button. And the first time that you click that save button, you'll be prompted to choose a domain. Okay, and when you have not yet upgraded to premium, you don't have the option to add your own customized domain, whether it's purchased from Wix or otherwise. So you will have a free Wix domain that looks something like this. So it'll be just kind of your username over here, and then it'll say wixsite.com. And then here you'll have a slug, which is essentially the name of your website inside of this domain. So here, for example, I want to call it something that I'll remember. It's not recommended to leave it just as like my site 5, because then if you have several websites, you might forget which URL is for what. You always want to give things meaningful names. It always helps when you're trying to be organized. So I'm going to call this Wix demo. And then I can go ahead and save and continue. And now you can see that my site has been saved, but it is not yet public. It's not yet on the web. You can't access this URL yet through the internet because I haven't yet published the site. And once I click this button over here, okay, you can see this button over here, it will publish my site to the internet and people will be able to access that URL that we just created. If you want to see what your website looks like to other people without actually publishing it to the web, you always have the option to use this preview mode over here. So if I go ahead and I click preview, then you'll see now that you can see essentially what your Wix website will look like to the public once it's published. And you can see here that up on top, I have this banner, and that is something that you'll have on all free Wix sites. So if your site is a free site, if you haven't upgraded to premium, you'll always have this banner. And to be honest, I've seen a few businesses that are not really dependent on outside traffic and they just wanted to create a page for people to access, let's say through Google Maps and read some information about the business. And they still have that banner up there on top and they're doing fine. So if that's your case, you don't necessarily have to upgrade to Wix Premium. The cases that you will need to upgrade to Wix Premium is one, if you want to get rid of that banner, two, if you want to attach your own domain, so www. Something unique about your business.com, or if you want to collect payments on your website using the Wix Pay systems. So those are the cases where you are going to want to upgrade your site to premium for sure. Other cases, it's really up to you. So I'm going to head back to the editor now. And once you're done and you're happy with your site and you think it's great and you're ready to publish it, then you can go ahead and click this publish button over here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now my site is live and it's on the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and view the site. And anybody now on the internet can access this website through that URL. So you can go ahead and share it with your friends and get their feedback. There are also other ways to get feedback without publishing your site directly. I have another video about that. But to be honest, if you don't tell somebody about this specific URL, it's nearly impossible that they will be able to find this page. So unless they guess the URL letter by letter, or you share it with them, there's no way that they're going to get to this page. Your website is still not on Google. Okay, so your website cannot be found on Google if you do not have your own domain. And that's the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is setting up SEO for your website. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it is basically the process of optimizing your site to be found on search engines like Google, for example. So if you want people to search something specific in Google and your website to be listed rather high there on the rankings, then you're going to have to do certain things to make sure that your website is A, listed on Google to begin with, and B, that the pages are set up in a Google or search engine friendly way so that search engines can easily index or file those pages and allow other people to find them. And Wix has a lot of tools for allowing you to set up your SEO. I'm really only going to just scratch the surface here, but the basic page SEO you can do through pages and menu, and then you go to a specific page, and then you go ahead and click these three dots right over here, and you'll have SEO basics. So you can go ahead and click that. And then here you can set up certain things with regard to SEO. So here, for example, is the title. So, like in a Google search results, so you have a title and then you have like some words under it. So this is that title right over here. And this meta description is what people will see right under that. And the quality of these titles and these meta descriptions has influence over how your site is ranked and how certain pages are being ranked. So you're going to want to make sure that all of your pages have this set up. and that you have unique title tags for each page. So you don't want this to be the same on any two pages. You also have some other advanced SEO settings, which I'm not going to delve into right now, as well as things that have to do with social share. So if you're sharing this link and you want it to have like a nice image above it, you're probably familiar with what I'm talking about if you live in the 21st century. So that is all done over here. And you also have a complete SEO setup wizard in the dashboard. So if I head back to the dashboard over here and we go into marketing and SEO, and then we go here into SEO, then you'll see that we have this SEO setup wizard. Okay, so we can click start setup and it will take us through this entire checklist. Just click get started and just keep on running through it and doing what it tells you to do. Part of it will be setting up those tags that I just showed you, but there will be other tips and tricks in terms of getting it set up. And the final step will be to index your website on Google. And Wix and Google have certain partnerships, and it really streamlines the process of getting your website indexed. Again, this is only going to work if you have your own custom domain. The way I have it currently set up, I will never be able to index this website on Google, unfortunately. Okay, so that is a little bit about SEO, and it's a super important part of creating your website because a lot of people think that, oh, if I build it, they will come. And that's true to a certain extent if your SEO is set up correctly. But if your SEO is not set up correctly and you're not doing marketing and you're not sharing your website, then you're not going to have anybody that visits your website. So that's why SEO is super, super important. And I hope that this kind of gives you a good push in the right direction in terms of getting your website set up. So now that we've covered the basics of editing your site and publishing it, I want to dive into some of the slightly more advanced topics with regard to editing your site. And these may or may not be relevant to you depending on your business type and the website you're trying to set up. So if you're just looking to set up like a single one-page informational website, then you have everything you need pretty much. But if you're trying to set up something a little more complex, then it is very likely that you will need to use the CMS or the content management system. And the content management system is pretty much, you can think of it like a lot of Excel spreadsheets that allow you to organize data and link that data to your website. So let me walk you through the very basics of setting up your CMS and linking the data to something on your website. So for example, if I go over here to CMS, okay, down over here, and then all I need to do is click add to site. And now the CMS is added to my website, and you'll see that over here I have your collections. And then I can go ahead right over here and click create a collection. And here I'm just going to start from scratch. Okay, I'm not going to explore what we can do here with AI. And I'm going to click next. And now you get to name your collection. So let's say that this is a list of different properties that you have on your website. So you have a real estate website, for example, and you have a bunch of listings that you want to show people on your site. So I'm just going to call this listings. And I'm going to go ahead and click create. And now you can see here that this is basically the table that I was talking about. It's like an Excel spreadsheet. And again, I'm really just touching the surface of CMS. I have multiple videos about this topic and some of the other things I'm about to talk about. So feel free to dive in deeper in the channel if you want really in-depth explanations about all of these topics. But in terms of just getting basically set up, so I'll start off by adding a field. So let's say this is going to be a number, and this is just going to be the price of one of my properties. Okay, so here is where you set up the name of the field, and then just right over here, you can go ahead and click save. Okay, so now I have just saved that field, and here I can set up my first property. And here I can put the price. And let's say I want to add an image that will go along with that property. So I can go ahead and add another field. that will be an image field. Okay, so select image right over here, and I'll just leave it called image. And then I can go and click this blue or slightly darker blue area right over here and go ahead and select media. So either I can upload my own media, which is probably what you're going to want to do for a listing on your site. But since I don't actually have a listing, I'm just going to choose some stock footage here, Japanese calligraphy. Awesome. So now that I've set up my listing, I can connect this to my website. And there's several different ways that we can connect this data. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways, starting from the most simple until slightly more advanced connections. Okay, so first of all, in order to connect to data from a collection to something on your website, to an element, we're going to need to add a data set, which is kind of like a bridge between a collection and elements on your website. So in order to do that, you go over here and add a content element, okay, down here on the bottom, and add a data set. And this is the data set, and this is something that will not appear on your site. So this square here, it's just in the editor. When I publish my site, this won't be visible. And the first thing I need to do is I need to click on settings right over here and select a collection that it'll be connected to. Currently, I only have one collection, so that's going to be the listings collection, and I'm setting it currently only to read. In a nutshell, you can use these data sets also to add things to your collections. I'm not going to talk about that right now because it's a slightly more advanced topic, but again, please explore the channel. There are videos about this topic. And I'm just going to add a filter, and let's say I want the title to be my first property. Okay, so I really just want to link it to one specific item where the title is my first property. And now what I could do here is I can click this button right over here, so connect to CMS, and then this little, not little, but this pop-up will come up and it'll allow me to connect this image to the image field from the CMS. Okay, and now you can see here that the image from the CMS is being displayed on my web page. And if I wanted to change this image, I don't have to change the image on the site itself, but I can just go into my CMS and change the image. So that's one very basic use case for CMS. But in the case of that we have several listings, it's very likely that we'll want to have some way to display several listings together. And that would be done either using something called a repeater or something called dynamic pages, or both. So a repeater is essentially an element which repeats a design but changes the actual data content. And before I demonstrate how to add that element, I'm just going to go back to my collection and add in one more listing so you can see it. So I'm going to go here to my collection, select my collection from right over here, and I'm going to add one more listing. I'm going to call it my second property, and I'm going to add a price, and I'm going to add an image just from stock footage again. Awesome. So now we have 2 listings. And let's say we want to display both of these listings and possibly more listings as well. So essentially we're going to need an element, like I just said, a repeater, which will have the same design but show the different content of each listing. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to add in a new section. It's going to be a blank section. And then I'm going to, for some reason it decided to add 2 sections, but I only need 1. And I'm going to go add element, and then you're going to want to go down here to where it says list. Okay, and here you can see that we have different kinds of repeaters. So here we have some pre-designed repeaters, and down here you can find also some undesigned repeaters if you want. I'm going to choose one of these pre-designed repeaters, so let's say I'm going to choose this one right over here. And at the moment, you can see that the design is being repeated, so each one of these items, they're called, inside of the repeater is styled quite similarly, but the data that they're showing is different. And what I want to do now is essentially connect this repeater to my data set. So I still have my listings data set right over here, and I'm going to drag it down here just so it's easier to see them both at the same time. It doesn't matter where it is on the page. And I'm going to go to the settings of this listings repeater, and I'm just going to get rid of my filter because I want it to be able to show multiple properties. So let me go ahead and delete that filter. And currently, just let me highlight that so it'll show up to 12 items. If you want to show more, then you can just change this number over here. Now I'm going to connect this repeater to my listings dataset. And again, that's done here through this squiggly connect to CMS line. And once I click that, then we have these options here on the side for connecting to a repeater. Now I'm going to select the listings dataset, and I can say that the image should be connected to the image from the collection. And then you can see here that now each of these items is displaying a respective image from the collection. And if I was to add another item to the collection, then another item would also appear here on my repeater without me even needing to publish my website again. Next, I'm going to change the text. So let's say I can go either here to repeater connections, or I can select an individual item here within the repeater and also connect it directly, and just say that this should, let's say, be the title. Okay, now this is saying my second property, my first property. And here for the button, I'm going to connect the label to the price. So let's say the label should be connected to the price. And then for each one of these, we should see the price on the label. And you can go ahead and change the design of these elements within the repeater, and any change that you make to one of the items will be reflected in all the other items. So let's say if I go over here, design text, and I make this text bold, then you can see that both items in the repeater have become bold. So again, a repeated design with different data. So that's one way that you might want to display data on your page. On your website, sorry. Another way is using something called dynamic pages. And dynamic pages are super important because we have a 100-page limit on Wix websites. Not only that, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Every additional page that you add to your website will slow your website down a little bit. That is the sad truth about Wix. So again, if you need pages on your website, then you need them, but you really want to keep your website as small as possible. And dynamic pages are essentially a way for you to add multiple pages to your website that only essentially count as one page from both a Wix and a speed perspective. And the way to do that is either through here on the side, we have this dynamic pages over here, so we can add dynamic page, or if I already have a data collection set up, which is how I recommend doing it, then you can go here to your collection, click on these three dots right over here, and click Add Dynamic Page. Once you do that, you'll have the option to either add a list page, an item page, or a blank page, where a list page will essentially be one page which has a repeater on it with all of the items from that collection. Okay, so similar to what I just displayed right now. And an item page is an individual page that corresponds to one item within the collection. So I'm going to start off by adding a list page. And now Wix is doing some magic behind the scenes and adding that to my site. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, in addition to that, I'm going to add also the item pages. So let me go back over here and to my collections, and I'm going to add item pages as well. So let me just click right over here and click Add to Site. Awesome. So now you see I have a list page and I have a listings item dynamic pages with two items. So it's essentially like I've added two additional pages to my website just now. So it's a template. Okay, this listings item page is a template which will display different data depending on which item is being displayed. And in preview mode, so I have this option over here to toggle between different items and see how the design will look with different data. Okay, but essentially each one of these is now a new page on my website. and we can connect between the list and these individual dynamic pages. So for example, if I go to the list page and we have this read more button over here, then we can change what it's connected to. So I can connect it to the CMS and say that the click action should navigate to listings item. Let me zoom in over here so you can see. And essentially what that means is that when I click on this read more button, it will now navigate to the corresponding dynamic page. So let me go ahead and publish these changes. So I'm going to go ahead and click publish. And now if I go to my live site, then you can see here that up on top, I have this new listings page. And if you don't see it, then you can just refresh your site and you should see it then. And I'm going to click on listings. And now if I go and click read more, then it will go to the my first property page. And if I go back and I click read more for my second property, it will go to my second property page. So those are different ways that you can use the Wix CMS or content management system in order to really drive your site using data. And this is extremely powerful if you have a data-driven business, such as a real estate business with listings or events or lots of different things. For many, many businesses, this is a must-have, so I definitely encourage you to check it out. Another Wix offering that you will most likely want to use on your site are Wix apps. And you can find Wix apps over here inside of the app market. So you just click over here, add apps, and here you're exposed to an app market full of both apps that were created by Wix themselves in-house and apps that were created by third-party people, including myself. I have one app on the app market at the moment. And these apps can really help you enhance your website using additional code and no-code solutions that might not be offered out of the box with Wix. When it comes to the Wix apps, all of them are free to install, but the payment-related apps will only fully function if you have upgraded your website. So I just want to run through some of the most popular Wix apps. So these ones are free and they're offered by Wix themselves. And these are apps that you are very likely to want to add to your website, even if you're not an e-commerce website or anything like that. So one of them is the Wix Members app. Okay, and this essentially lets you add a member area so you can require people to log in, sign up to your website, and you can manage membership and access to different pages. So this is something that's quite common to add to your Wix website. Another common one is Wix blog. So if I just search blog over here, then you have the option to add in Wix blogs, and that, as it sounds, it's adding a blog to your website, but very optimized for SEO and giving you all the tools that you need to publish different posts and organize them in categories and stuff like that. Additionally, you have the option to add a forum, so a free Wix forum. And these are all apps that don't require any kind of payment. So they're not e-commerce apps, so you get them fully functional out of the box. Some e-commerce apps that Wix provides is, of course, Wix stores. So that's a big one if you are going to be creating, an online store, any kind of e-commerce. You're definitely going to be adding Wix stores to your website. So in order to add one of these apps, all you would do is just click on this button here, add to site. And then Wix does kind of some setup in the background and will add necessary pages to your site as well as additional functionality to your dashboard. So as soon as this is added over here, so now this is my shop homepage here that you can see being created in the background. And if I go ahead and I refresh my dashboard here as well, then I should see options to manage different store products right over here. And so here I can add different products and edit them, etc., and manage inventory and my orders as they come in, gift cards, etc. So really it just goes and adds a whole bulk of things, a whole bulk of functionality to your Wix website. And again, this app is completely free to install out of the box. And The only thing is that if you want to receive payments from other people, then you will have to upgrade your website to Wix Premium. The final two apps that I want to show you are also apps that I see used very, very, very commonly on Wix websites, and those are Wix Bookings, which essentially allows you to take bookings like appointments or organize courses or classes or anything like that, have people sign up at specific dates and times, and collect payments for those. So that is definitely an app that you should be taking a look at. And the final one is the Pricing Plans app. And this is the perfect app for managing any kind of membership. So if people have, let's say, different levels of pricing or something like that to access different parts of your website. So this is where you would set it up. And a lot of these apps work in tandem with one another. So for example, pricing plans can work together, has to work together with the Wix membership area, and it can work together as well with bookings and Wix stores in order to create, more complex offerings, let's say for members. So these apps all have relationships with each other, and I encourage you to install them and explore if this is something that you need for your business. So one last thing that I want to show you before we head over to Wix Studio is Velo. And Velo is essentially the option to add code to this no-code platform, which is Wix. And the reason I'm showing this to you is just so that you know that if you reach some kind of stump as you're working on your Wix website and you really want to do something that you're pretty sure you can't do with any kind of no-code solution that Wix offers, you should know that there are more options. So even if you're not coming from a code background yourself, you can either hire somebody else to do it or look up some tutorials on the Wix Wiz in order to learn how to do it yourself. And I just want to show you here how to essentially go into that Velo mode and give you a few tips for using Velo so that you can begin that journey yourself if you choose to do so. So in order to use Velo on your website, which is essentially an extension of JavaScript, if you've heard of that language before, you just go over here on the top to where you see Dev Mode, and then you could just turn on Dev Mode over here. And now essentially what this does is it adds this code panel here on the bottom of every single page, and it adds this additional panel here on the side in order to allow you easier navigation for developmental purposes and access to additional things such as backend file codes, etc. And here inside of this onReady function that you see over here, this is where you're going to be writing JavaScript code. You can essentially select different elements using their IDs over here and write code which pertains to them, such as hiding elements, showing elements, making certain buttons work, etc. So it's really a whole world. And this uses a combination, as I said, of JavaScript and these Velo APIs. So you'll want to check out this documentation here, the Velo API reference. And this essentially is the cookbook for how you can interact with various Wix elements and Wix apps using Velo code. I'm not going to do any more than that because it really would be there could be a whole course on this if you check out Udemy Velo for Beginners. I also have a course specifically on this topic. I didn't mean to mention it at all, but it just came out. Okay, so that is Velo, and with that, I really think that we touched on a lot of the key parts of getting started on Wix in the Wix editor. And now we're going to hop over to Wix Studio, and I'm really just going to point out some key differences between Wix Studio and the classic Wix editor. Okay, so welcome to Wix Studio, and as you can see, it looks quite different in terms of design. So you have this nice sleek black panel here on the top, and you have this side panel here, and there are a lot of things that are the same. So we have this plus here for add elements, and it's designed very differently, but essentially we have access to most of the elements that we have in the Wix editor, but there are some elements that are in the Wix editor that are not yet in Wix Studio. So that's one important thing to note. We also have the page navigation, okay, just like we had in the Wix editor. It looks a little different, but essentially the functionality is the same. Some things that we have here that are new and different. So first of all, here on the top, you'll notice that we have, instead of just having desktop and mobile, we have 3 breakpoints, and we also have the option to add additional breakpoints. And breakpoints are essentially screen sizes where your design will fundamentally change. Okay, so for example, between desktop and tablet and mobile, typically you will have some fundamental changes to the design because of the structure of the screen. And in addition to those breakpoints, we also have the option for responsive design. So let's say I go ahead and I add in an element here. So I'm just going to add in a basic container element, and let me color it green just so you can see it a little better. And I'm going to go ahead and make it a lot larger. Awesome. And now you'll notice that here on the side, so I have these kind of tug panels over here. And if I grab one of them and I drag it to the side, then you can see that this is essentially showing me how my website will look for different screen sizes within this specific breakpoint. And you saw that as I was moving this dragging thing, this dragger, it was making this green box smaller. And that behavior is fundamentally different to the Wix editor because the Wix editor is adaptive. So once you put something, it'll stay the same size no matter what. But here within Wix Studio, you have the option to make the elements responsive to the size of the screen. And you can obviously change those things as well. So here on the side, if you see this little inspector here on top, if I open that, then that opens a lot of properties and advanced design options with regard to this specific element, including some design aspects. So a lot of the things that we used to do through the menu here in the Wix editor, we actually do through this side panel over here. I'm not going to dive in too deeply, but essentially you also have the option to use this kind of responsive pixel notation or something. I don't know exactly what Wix called it, but it's a special kind of responsive measurement that they've developed. And you also have the option to change the responsive behavior and do things a little differently depending on what you want, as well as activating some of the more advanced features, which kind of takes you back into Editor X mode. So that's a little bit about the difference between Wix Studio from a design and responsiveness perspective. In terms of entering Velo, which is what I showed you before, so that's also a little different. So that would be here on the side, and then you can click Start Coding. And the layout looks a little different. So I'm just going to go here into Developer mode. And here you can see that the code panel is on the side, and there's also an external IDE that you can open. I'm not going to go too much into that now, but just so you know that things are a little different here from the classic editor. Except for that, the same principles that I explained within the Wix editor still stand here. So whether it has to do with, saving your website here, Wix Studio auto saves, publishing your website, going into preview mode, using dynamic pages, using CMS, using different elements, using SEO setup. So those things are all pretty much the same. Again, things might move around a bit, and they might look a little different, so it may take you some time to find it if you're used to one of the editors and not the other. But the principles that I explained should all hold true for Wix Studio as well. And with that, I hope that I gave you enough in order to start your Wix journey in 2024. I wish you all the best, and if you want to continue seeing more Wix content and learn how to use Wix in more advanced and cool ways, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.